Welcome to Fuel Her Awesome, the nutrition pep talk to supercharge your week. I'm Jess, registered dietitian and empowered eating coach, here to help you take your health to that next level. In these bite-sized episodes, we cut right through the noise and blend science with biofeedback and values, all while teaching you how to trust your intricately and beautifully designed body. Because here's the deal, you are awesome, and life is an invitation to show up that way. But you can't do it without food. So let's lean in as we explore how to fuel your awesome with empowered eating. Hey friend, welcome back to part 2 of your hormone health playbook. I love talking about this because it impacts all of us. And if you're in my era, you're in the perimenopausal era where we're like, what the heck is happening? It's puberty all over again, only we're older with more responsibility. But today we're actually going to be diving into the mental side of estrogen and progesterone. And this is where I really love to better understand our body, because if you tuned in last week, I shared with you guys just how I actually started connecting the dots with my mood and my period, and how profound that realization and that connection was. Because for years, I did not connect the fact that a lot of my mood and some of my depression and my anxiety was actually linked to my hormones. And so I think connecting these dots is just such a powerful space for women, where we can understand what's happening in our body and we can learn to lean into the more logical side of things, so that emotions don't drive our life bus. Because we all know if emotions are driving the life bus, one day we're going to be super responsible, powerful women, and the next we're going to be packing everything in our car and leaving all responsibility, driving, to the mountains, not telling anyone. So I think we have to understand what's happening in our body, and hormones have a huge impact on our mental health. So today what I want to do is actually unpack what happens, what are the mental health impacts of these progesterone and estrogen shifts? These are the two primary hormones in our cycle. How do they impact our mood? What sort of mental challenges does this create? We're going to revisit some of the things we touched on last week. We had an acronym, a life, that actually helps us create rhythms that help support hormonal balance. And then lastly, we're going to talk about some of the nutrition things that we can do to manage this, because of course we are one whole body. What's happening with our hormones is not excluded or unlinked to what is happening in our gut health, and our mental health, and our nutrition is what literally fuels all of that. So we're definitely going to hit on some tactical tips. Also, super excited to share with you guys, I have some cycle syncing menus that I'm so excited to share with you. So if you are on my email list, guess what, sister? Look for this coming in your inbox this month. We'll be sending that out in the next couple of weeks. And these are just some really great menus for you to play with and see if they help support your cycle. If you're like, Jess, I'm not on your email list, but I want that, don't worry, you can get on it. Just head on over to either my Jess Brown RD website or my private practice website, The Well Collective. I will have both of those links in the show notes. You can easily join the mail list just from our homepage. And we do not spam people, but I love to send out recipes and menus and things that I think will really help you just enhance your nutrition. So make sure you are on that list. I love connecting with people there. And you know what? I like to say this too. When I send these emails out, they are truly from me. So if you like them, if you have a question, guess what? You can hit respond and I will read it. I think there are so many automated emails going out in the world that sometimes we forget there's a human on the other side of some of them. And hi, I'm a human on the other side, and I would love to hear what you think. Oh, and speaking of being a human on this side of the microphone, I have to tell you, so many of you took time in the last few months to leave a review for the show, and I cannot thank you enough. These reviews, they really light me up, because again, this whole digital space and social media, I feel like it creates this disconnect, and I am just not here for that. If you ask me my dream day, it has nothing to do with computers or digital spaces and everything to do with talking to people directly. So when you guys take a minute to actually leave a review, it bridges some of that disconnect that I think is present in the digital space. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for those of you who took time to share with me your thoughts about the show. I loved reading every single one of them. And if you haven't, can you do me a favor? Will you pause, leave a review, let me know what you think, and just know that that is something that really speaks to me and encourages me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, you guys ready to talk hormones? I don't know where you are in your cycle right now, but I am coming off of my cycle. I am on like day 4 or 5 of my period right now. And that's not TMI, because what that tells me is there's a reason I'm in such a dang good mood right now. I feel like I can conquer the world. And it's because my hormones have finally leveled out. If I would have been recording this podcast for y'all about 3 days ago, you would have had a totally different Jess. She was feeling down. She was feeling like nothing is working and that hormones are the enemy. And I probably would have come in with a different lens. But that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, is why this happens so that we can understand it and we can weather these waves. So I'm going to be hitting on the 2 major hormones that go through our cycle. That's estrogen and progesterone. So let's first break down what these 2 girls do throughout our cycle. So on day 1 of your period, that's when your progesterone and your estrogen are actually some of the lowest in your body than they are in any other time during the month. And this is because the body has not become pregnant and you're getting rid of that uterine lining, you're shedding it. And so these girls come down so that the body can understand, okay, we're not going the pregnancy direction. Let's go ahead and cleanse everything out. So the first few days of your period, all the way up until about day 8 or 10 of your cycle, estrogen and progesterone are at a very moderate, consistent level. Now, at about day 8 to 10, maybe 12, right before you ovulate, estrogen starts going up the roller coaster. It's like that crank on the roller coaster when you're like tick, 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 like it's coming. You know what I'm talking about? That's what estrogen does on the way up to your ovulation day. And then we have ovulation day, and right there, once we release that egg, estrogen hits that roller coaster peak and nosedives. All the while, progesterone is pretty smooth and steady. And then after ovulation, progesterone and estrogen switch. So estrogen starts to go on that uptick, and it's like click, 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 click. It's a more steady up click of a roller coaster here, but it's going to steadily rise until about day 22, 24, and then it will hit that down slope right before you start your period. And on that day 1 of your period, estrogen and progesterone are at their lowest. So you've got like estrogen going through kind of this double roller coaster, really high peak before ovulation, and then steady increase during that luteal phase right before you start your period. And then you have progesterone, which is like steady, 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 and then this increase and decrease in that luteal phase right before ovulation in that PMS week. Crazy roller coaster is happening. So 3 or 4 days ago, before I started, it would be 5 days ago. Looking at the calendar here, 5 days ago, I was in that state where progesterone was really high, estrogen was slightly elevated, and man, I was in a mood. And here's what's happening during those times. Estrogen enhances serotonin and dopamine. It actually supports mood, it supports cognition and memory. But when there are large shifts, so those days where it rises and falls, it can trigger a more emotional reactivity in our brain. Progesterone, on the other hand, it has this more like calming effect. And so when it's high, it can make us feel a little bit more sleepy. We can actually feel a little bit more calm. But then when it dips low and it tanks right before we start our period, that's when we can feel the anxiety, insomnia, and irritability. And so the days leading up to our period, you're having both estrogen and progesterone going on this downslope of a roller coaster. And so this is going to make us feel more reactive to what's going on around us. And this is going to be different for different individuals. Some of us are more sensitive. And I say us because, me, I'm the problem, it's me. I am incredibly sensitive to this shift and can feel it in my body. And I feel like I felt it more as I've gone through my perimenopausal years. I can definitely sense it coming. I feel it at a deeper level. And I don't know, maybe part of it's just the awareness too. It's like now I understand, oh, hey, my girls are going on the downward slope, which is why I feel more reactive right now, is because my hormones are not stable. it makes a lot more sense. And so I guess I'm more attuned to it than ever before. Although it's probably more dramatic as well because hello, perimenopause. So there's things that can enhance some of the mental challenges that come from our estrogen and progesterone going on this roller coaster. We can feel these mood swings. Obviously, that increases irritability. I don't have to tell you that, but we tend to be more prone to anxiety, brain fog, and lower motivation on those days. And so we're going to talk a bit about how to counteract that with some nutrition and movement. I think in the perimenopausal years, there is also this layer of just midlife depression risk. Depression risk actually goes up in the perimenopausal years. And I think it makes sense. We're in a new season of life where we have a responsibility of work and kids and family, and yet we are old enough now that life is real and it's happening in ways we didn't expect. There are losses, there are divorces, there are financial strains, there are unexpected diagnoses. I mean, you go around the planet this long, and I think it's not a matter of if, it's when you face life's hardships. And that's I'm not here to be like doomsday about that, but I just think I know life is real, and we have to like see the full picture here, that you have fluctuating hormones and real life things going on. So it makes sense that mood dysregulation would be more severe in this season of life than it has been before. I mean, the other day I was going through my hormonal shifts, and we were working through some stuff at our home. We've had a lot of like house repair stress this year. Oh my gosh. It has been endless. Everyone says like, oh, it happens all at once. And I'm going, I know, but that doesn't make me feel better. Like, it's just been crazy, the amount of money we have had to dump into our house this year. So anyways, I'm like walking through some of that in my head, like just feeling very overwhelmed by it. I'm in the middle of my hormone downslope, and I know that's happening. And then my little boy is like stuck on his yo-yo. He just got a yo-yo, and he wants to be as good as his brother is. And so he's sitting there trying to do it, and it's not working. And he's like getting more and more frustrated, and he's throwing that metal yo-yo, and it's hitting the tile. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now we're going to crack the tile. We're going to have another house repair project. And then he's like tossing it towards the TV. So I'm going, oh boy, baby boy, come here. Please don't like flick your wrist towards the TV. I'm still trying to pay one of the home repair bills. And then he's like asking me question after question after question. And I'm like, what? It's like overload. And so I think that's a microcosm of what a lot of us are experiencing in this season of life. We have these crazy hormonal shifts. We have these heavy responsibilities. And then we've got these little ones that we love so much asking, having meltdowns about yo-yos. And we are being asked to address all of it at once. So it makes a lot of sense to me that particularly the perimenopausal years are incredibly stressful. Yeah, there's just a lot going on. So let's talk about how we can stay in the driver's seat and what we can do to really support ourselves in this season so we can expand our capacity. Because I know, when my baby boy was upset about the yo-yo, I was more short-tempered with him than I would have liked to been. And that is because of all the things happening, but also because we have been traveling a bunch and I have not been taking care of my health and my nutrition the way I normally like to. And that's just a reality. And so I can see where some of those self-care practices, if we don't keep them at the forefront, if we don't maintain discipline, it will change our capacity and how we support the ones around us. So that's what we're here to do today. You in? Okay. So just a little recap of the acronym ALIFE. Last time we hit on this and we talked about how to build a life that supports hormone balance, and it's ALIFE. So we have adapt stress, love your liver, increase awareness, fuel for balance, and embrace sleep. So these are the 5 ways we can best support ourselves as we go through these seasons of hormonal shifts. But what I want to do today is actually break them down at a more granular level and give you guys some really key nutrition takeaways. Okay, let's park here on the letter I in this acronym. Increase awareness. This one is inviting us to track your cycle, note your symptoms, recognize your patterns. These are the things that give us power and autonomy in what's happening with our hormones. When you know what's happening, you can understand how to respond with intention. And I think this is so, so important. And we just can't do it if we're not tracking. Now, I know in the perimenopausal years, We start to skip periods, especially as we get closer to menopause. But even so, understanding how far apart your cycles are getting, what is my new rhythm, this is going to be so helpful for you. So if you aren't tracking it, start tracking. Most all of the smartwatches, the smart apps, they have options for actually adding in your hormone cycle and tracking it there. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times in a month I'll have some of these intrusive thoughts, and then I'll go, okay, I'll open up my Garmin watch and go, where am I at in my cycle? That makes sense. And it just helps me understand why I might be feeling more responsive and reactive to some of the things going on around me. So awareness is key. Okay, we're going to move on to the F in this acronym, which is for fueling for balance. Last week we talked about how nourishing your hormones with adequate protein, healthy fats, fiber-rich carbohydrates, stabilizing your blood sugar. This really supports hormone production and prevents these like extreme roller coaster crashes. But I want to dive into some of the details here. So there are some specific micronutrients that are so key for mental health and hormone support. And I think this is just so fun to dive into. So you ready? You ready to nerd out with me for a second? Okay, let's start with one of my favorites. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. So if you're taking an omega-3 supplement, you want to look at the back label and make sure that they have EPA and DHA. If you bought them from me and my recommendation on your Fullscript site, you have this. So you don't have to worry about it. But if you're buying them at Costco, I don't know, we got to look. So these specific types of fatty acids, they are anti-inflammatory, but in the mental health realm, they actually support serotonin receptor sensitivity. They are so helpful when we are having some of those mood shifts. If we can boost how our brain is catching serotonin, because, if we are producing serotonin, that's half of the struggle in maintaining a happy mood. We want to make sure our brain can catch that serotonin and we can have that full connection point. And omega-3 is key in that receiving process. Omega-3s are obviously in your supplements. I'm a big fan of supplementing with omega-3 because I think the therapeutic level is hard to get from your diet. And not many of us eat salmon 3 or 4 times a week. And if you do, you're amazing. You are amazing. So you may not need an omega-3 supplement. But for those of us who don't, we can get it from a supplement, but we can also get it in other foods like chia, flax, and walnuts. They're a slightly different type of omega-3. However, they will still give our body those essential fatty acids. So I think looking at adding and increasing omega-3s in the 2 weeks leading up to your period can really help us weather those emotional crashes. I have a PMS protocol that I put a lot of my women clients on, and omega-3s are a part of that protocol. And it's pretty cool to hear how that changes. It just increases our resiliency for those hormonal shifts. And I know I can feel it when I'm on top of my supplements and taking them regularly. I just don't seem to have as extreme of a shift. Like I just feel more mellow. And I love that because to me, I'm like, this is so cool. Like what a great day and age to be living in the perimenopausal days. We know more about nutrition and hormones today than we ever have, than any of our moms, aunts, or grandmas ever knew. And omega-3s is one of them. So supplement up, girl, especially the 2 weeks before your period. Okay, some of the other micronutrients are going to be B vitamins, B6, B12, and B folate. B6 is especially important because it aids in neurotransmitter synthesis. So it helps us create those neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. All of those support a happy, calm, mellow mood. Folate and B12 also support something called methylation, and this is actually a key process in hormone clearance. So when we have higher estrogen and progesterone levels and then our body's trying to get rid of them, we need that folate and B12 available to process them. B supplements, I don't think are totally necessary because we can get so much of our B vitamins from food, especially if we're eating adequate protein. So if you're having salmon, chicken, any nuts, these are going to be so dense with B vitamins. And other ways we can get them are like dark leafy greens, lentils, beans, avocados, sweet potatoes. I mean, in general, it's a lot of that whole food stuff that we hear on repeat. Well, guess what, girl? 2 weeks before your period, giving yourself those whole foods, you're going to be boosting your B vitamins. Another micronutrient is magnesium. I talk a lot about magnesium on the podcast. I'm a big fan of this one as well. It calms the nervous system, supports GABA, reduces PMS-related anxiety and irritability, and it also plays a role in estrogen metabolism. So specifically making sure you're on top of your magnesium supplementation the 2 weeks before your period, again, can help weather some of those shifts in estrogen and progesterone. And then the other ones we have are tryptophan, iron, and zinc. Now, tryptophan is an amino acid that's a precursor to serotonin, your happy hormone. And this is going to be so important during those 2 weeks leading up because we tend to have some gut health dysregulation in those 2 weeks. I don't know if you've ever experienced like a change in your stool girth. Like sometimes people have thinner stools, or they will have like diarrhea during the days before their period or when they first start their period. And some of that's just anatomical. Like your uterus is literally shifting and pushing up against your intestines. But when we do that, it can change how we're receiving and absorbing food. And if we make 90% of our serotonin, our happy hormone, in our gut, and things are moving through too fast, we might need some help in giving our body more tools and resources to build that serotonin in our gut. So we can get this from, again, a lot of the protein products like turkey, chicken, eggs, nuts, seeds. If you've looked at anything on Instagram about cycle syncing, you'll see that they talk a lot about like seed cycling, and some of that has to do with a little bit of the B vitamins and magnesium, but also giving your body enough to support tryptophan production. And then the last two I mentioned were iron and zinc. Deficiencies in these two can actually worsen mood and fatigue and brain fog. And so if you're someone that already has low iron, when we are leading up into our period, it's likely to drop even lower, which again, that low amount can make our mood worse and fatigue worse and brain fog worse. So just making sure we are at adequate levels of these. I encourage all my women to get checked annually for their iron levels. And then zinc is one of those supplements that I typically recommend in the 2 weeks leading up to your period, but not every day. Zinc's a tricky one. We can overdo it with supplementation, and it also can make you nauseous if you take too much. So this one you'll definitely want to talk to me about or talk to your healthcare provider about. But I think when we can use it strategically, it's really powerful because it does tend to dip in those 2 weeks before our period, and making sure we have adequate amounts can help us weather it. So we've got lots of tools available to us directly through nutrition. But I think the tricky part is that all of these micronutrients that I just talked about, omegas, B vitamins, magnesium, tryptophan, iron, and zinc, they are all so crucial and needed during those 2 weeks before your period. However, those are the 2 weeks that we are like, give me the nachos, give me the ice cream. And so I think it puts our body in this bind where biologically we need one thing, but mentally we're craving what's easy, we're craving what's comforting. So typically what I tell folks is supplement smart, like get your supplement stack ready during those 2 weeks so you can give yourself those micronutrients at the therapeutic levels that you need. And then the second part is let's take care of ourselves like we would our niece, nephew, or kiddo. Because here's the thing. If my boys come to me and say, Mama, can we have, they actually did this yesterday. Mama, can I have a donut? It was 4:30 at night. And I said, no, you cannot have a donut. You have to have dinner first. And then they gave me this whole rant about how, well, Mama, we got these free donuts at the balloon fiesta. Just a little side note. We have a huge festival in Albuquerque called the Balloon Fiesta every year. And my boys, we were there late because my husband was working. And we were there late enough that the Krispy Kreme donuts went to half price, to $3 a box, to free $1 a box. And you should have seen my kids when they said free. They dropped everything, ran across the park, and literally got 10 boxes of donuts. Those boys, we have so many Krispy Kremes in our house right now. So anyways, they're asking for a Krispy Kreme donut, and I'm going, okay, I understand. And they're presenting like this whole case of, yeah, but Mama, we got them for free and it's so exciting. And if we don't eat them, they're going to go bad. They have every reason why they need a donut at 4:30 p.m. And I looked at them and I said, listen, you can have a donut after dinner, after you eat your protein, after you eat your healthy carbs, after you eat your color. Then we will revisit the donut situation. And, they rolled their eyes like, oh, well, I don't know how I'm going to meet my donut quota for the day. I just laughed. I'm like, really? You have a donut quota? So anyways, I think if we can treat ourselves like we would our kids and look at ourselves and go, okay, Jess, I know you don't want to eat anything healthy today because nachos or ice cream just sound so much better right now. Like I hear that. And you can have those things, but first we need to meet some of your core nutrient needs. And then we'll come back to this and we'll see about your nacho quota for the week. But I think, again, if we can present it to ourselves like that, we really put ourselves in this empowering position where we meet our biological needs, we take care of our body, and then we, don't go into extreme restriction, and we do allow ourselves some room for some fun food and some flexibility. What's interesting about this is I think when we do this, I actually know you're going to feel so much better giving yourself those micronutrients, giving yourself quality nutrition in the 2 weeks before your period, that your cravings are not going to be as intense. And where you might have wanted a whole thing of ice cream before, you may only want a few bites, if at all. It's pretty cool how when you meet the biological need, those mental cravings seem to subside and go away. Okay, I've got to hit on one more thing here because estrogen balance is pretty tricky and it's a hot topic right now. And I just want to hit on a few things. Whether you have high or low estrogen, there are specific nutrient interventions that we can throw at it to help balance those estrogen swings. And oftentimes folks are like, well, how do I get my hormones tested? My doctor won't do it. There are different ways we can do it. One of the ways I love to do it is with a Dutch test. This is an at-home multiple urine sample test where we can actually track your hormones over the course of time and get a really clear idea of where you are landing. Are you estrogen dominant? Are you low in estrogen? And what's cool about that is that's real life biofeedback that we can take and craft a nutrition plan very specifically targeted towards what your body is telling us. It's so cool. I also can find out if someone is estrogen dominant by looking at some of their GI mapping. So there is a specific enzyme that we measure on the GI map, which is the stool test that we run, that allows us to see, are we having a hard time actually clearing extra estrogen? And is there so much coming into the gut that there's an excess piling up and there's toxins that are then recirculating back into the body? This is incredibly powerful, but I just want to hit on some high level stuff here in case I have high estrogen or low estrogen. So if you're someone that has low estrogen, having things like flaxseed, phytoestrogens, this can gently mimic estrogen in the body and it can ease symptoms of low estrogen. So that's why a lot of times folks who may have low estrogen right before ovulation, or if you're getting closer to those menopausal years and you're just naturally having that decline in estrogen, girl, add some flaxseed, 1 to 2 tablespoons a day in your smoothie. You can throw it in some of your other beverages. You can throw it in your yogurt, your oatmeal. This is such a great way to boost some of those phytoestrogens in your body. Another area to focus on for anyone who might be struggling with low estrogen would be making sure they have a healthy body fat percentage. And I'm not talking healthy, I'm talking about adequate actually. So making sure you have enough body fat. Our culture is so focused on lower is better, and I will die on this hill because that is not true. We need adequate body fat. Women need on average at least 18% body fat to successfully produce enough hormones to even have estrogen on the chart. So if you're really low in your body fat, that could be what's happening here. Okay, for those who might have excess estrogen or an estrogen dominance, this would be for folks with heavy, painful periods, breast tenderness, like really strong PMS, mood swings, bloating, migraines, weight gain, irritability. I think this is where most of us fall. This is where I fell for several years. This lets us know that we actually need to support our body in clearing that estrogen. And you want to know the quick, easy way to do that here? Broccoli. Remember when our moms used to make us eat broccoli when we were little? My mom used to make trees and cheese where she would cook broccoli and put Velveeta cheese on it. And I didn't like broccoli as a kid. I still don't like broccoli as an adult, but I appreciate what it's doing for me when I eat it regularly. By providing yourself with daily cruciferous veggies, you provide the body with something called sulforaphane, which helps the body process and excrete estrogen safely. So it's really, really powerful here. Also making sure we get adequate fiber. Fiber binds with excess estrogen directly in the gut to help carry it out. Guys, getting adequate fiber is hard. I do this for a living and I have to work really hard at this. So a lot of the menus that you'll see in that email going out in a couple of weeks or in a few days will give you ideas on how to boost your fiber because we want to make sure we're clearing any extra estrogen. Ooh, we covered a lot today. Isn't it fun to talk about hormones? I really could talk about this all day, every day. In fact, I do with most of the clients I work with. But, here's the really good news. Hormones are a roller coaster and they're a ride, but I really believe that we don't have to be at the mercy of our hormones. We can use nutrition as a lever, like micronutrients, those omegas, magnesium, and B vitamins. They help our brain chemistry. Things like cruciferous veggies and fiber, they help our liver clear the excess estrogen. And cycle awareness means you stop being surprised by the mood swings and you actually see these patterns coming. And I love that because it keeps us in the driver's seat. Now when I have those days where I feel down or I feel like nothing's working, I now understand that that's not reality. That is my hormone. Those are my hormones. Those are my estrogen and progesterone girls going on the downslope. This is what I call empowered eating in real time. We've got the science here, understanding what's happening in our body. We have the biofeedback, listening and learning and creating awareness. And then in doing this, what it does is it allows us to put the values at the forefront of the decisions that we make. So then we're not living in reaction to our hormones or as a victim of our hormones. We're actually understanding what's happening and still creating paths and rhythms and rituals that support who we want to be and the goals that we're working towards. Because girl, I know you've got some serious goals. I know that because you're here learning how to take care of your body. And this is a really great way to not fall at the mercy of our hormones. While they may fluctuate, you don't have to feel out of control. Well, I sure hope today helped you. There's so much power in understanding what's happening inside our body biologically, and it'll help us weather the mental side of what's happening with estrogen and progesterone. But if you're thinking, Jess, this was helpful, but I am someone that needs to talk to someone. Girl, first of all, I get you. I'm like you. I'm going, this is helpful, but I still want to talk this through. I'm actually going to drop the link below for you to schedule an intake assessment with me. We've actually added this just recently. You can do a one-time intake assessment for a lower cost just to chat it out and see, okay, do I need just a little bit of help or do I really need to dive in? And this initial conversation is such a great way to do that. So you've got a few resources for you below in the show notes. You have that link to sign up for our mailing list so that you can make sure and get those menus in your inbox. And then, of course, I'd love to meet you in a one-on-one conversation where we can talk through some of these swings. My friend, you are amazing. You are doing so many things in your day, all the while your estrogen and progesterone are going on a roller coaster inside your body. Now, if that doesn't make you feel like a queen, I don't know what will. You are a queen. I hope you have an amazing day. We'll see you next week when we talk about food dyes just in time for Halloween. Until then, I hope you have a beautiful day. Cheers and happy eating. That's a wrap on today's Empowered Eating Pep Talk. If this hits home, be sure to leave a review and share it on your social media, tagging me at JessBrownRD. And girl, if you're ready to take your nutrition and mindset to that next level, I would love to get to know you more. Head on over to JessBrownRD.com to explore things like the Well-Fueled Academy, one-on-one coaching, and all the free resources I have to help you live, eat, and fuel your awesome. Until next time, sister, have an amazing day. Cheers and happy eating.